Hello everyone and welcome back to another Dare to Game video. Today we're playing Red Dead Online and we're doing another weapon customization guide. And today is going to be our first long arm guide and we're going to be taking a look at a personal favorite of mine, the Lancaster Repeater. So this is my favorite repeater in the game. Statistically speaking, the Evans is probably a superior gun, but a lot of people love the Lancaster and it is a famous gun based off a Winchester repeater and I think it just looks awesome. So there are a lot of really great ways to customize it and I'm going to show you my 5 favorite today. So before we get into that, if you like this video or you find yourself enjoying it at any point along the line, definitely leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, so that way you can stay up to date on all the content I release on a regular basis. So before we dive on into the first design that I've got for the Lancaster Repeater, first a little bit of historical background information about the real-life gun that this one is based off of. The Lancaster Repeater in Red Dead Online is based off the real-life Winchester rifle model 1866. This rifle was the first Winchester rifle, and it was originally chambered for the rimfire 44 Henry round. It was nicknamed the Yellow Boy because of the receiver, which was made out of a bronze brass alloy called gunmetal. It was famous for its rugged construction and the lever-action repeating rifle mechanism that allowed the user to fire a number of shots before having to reload. Nelson King's improved patent remedied flaws in the Henry rifle by incorporating a loading gate on the side of the frame and integrating a round, sealed magazine that was partially covered by the forestock. France purchased 6,000 model 1866 rifles along with 4.5 million 44 Henry cartridges during the Franco-Prussian War. The Ottoman Empire purchased 45,000 model 1866 rifles and 5,000 carbines in 1870 and 1871. These rifles were used in the 1877 Russo-Turkish War, causing much surprise when outnumbered Turks at the Siege of Plevna inflicted many times more casualties than their opponents, armed with single-shot Kernka and Verdun rifles. The Model 1866 compelled Russians to develop a new rifle, the Mosin Nagant, after that war. The Swiss Army initially selected the Model 1866 to replace their existing single-shot Milbank Amster rifles. However, ensuing political pressure to adopt a domestic design resulted in the Veretti Model 1867, a bolt-action design utilizing a copy of Winchester's tubular magazine, being adopted instead. Due to public demand, the Model 1866 continued to be manufactured and sold until 1899, mainly because they were less expensive than the later steel-framed centerfire models. The Winchester Model 1866 would be the most popular rifle used by the United States Army from 1866 all the way up until 1885. So for our first design, we're going to start it off with the DTG Classic. It's my favorite design, the one I almost always have on my Lancaster, and it's the one that I think just perfectly melds the more subdued colors and the more flashy colors. So this is the one I almost always have in the Lancaster. We've got all your upgrades, so improved rifling, improved sights, all that stuff. We're not going to be using a scope, but we are going to be using a cartridge wrap. Now, if you don't have the cartridge wrap because you missed it, it was a limited time item that you could unlock with one of the quick draw passes. If you don't have it, then the plain leather wrap will work. It just won't have the bullets. But we're going to be using the brick color for that, and then the mesquite varnish for the wood. We're not going to carve anything into the wood. We're not going to engrave anything into the metal. And then for the metal choices, we're going to have blued steel for the barrel, the hammer, the lever, and the sight, and gold for the trigger and the frame. So real minimal use of the gold. We're only using it on 2 items. It keeps it decently cheap because the blued steel doesn't cost very much. The gold is expensive, but the blued steel is cheap, so it's not going to come out to a ton. But that blue on gold contrast with the red from the mesquite and the brick looks incredible. Like I said, it's a flawless way to design your Lancaster. If you want to have a scope on it, you pop it on there and you could either do the blued steel on it for a more subtle look or match it with the frame and do the gold, and it would still look decently good because it's right there next to the frame. Either way, this is such a classic design. Like I said, 90% of the time this is what I have on my repeater because I've just never come up with a design that I actually like significantly more than this one. But with all that in mind, that's the first design for the Lancaster Repeater. Let's move on to the second design. So for this one, we've got the modern look, or you could call this one the Marlin, or whatever you want to do with it. This one has a much more contemporary look. And other than the first one, this one's probably my next favorite because I just really love the way this looks. So for this one, we're going to do the same thing, improved rifling, improved sights, all that good stuff. No scope on this one either. This time, no wrap at all. And we're going to, for the varnish, we're going to use the dark walnut look. The ebony works as well, but I think the dark walnut looks better. But we're not going to carve anything into it. We're not going to engrave anything into the metal. And then the metals for this gun are going to be nickel plating for the barrel, the frame, and the lever, and blackened steel for the hammer, the sight, and the trigger. Main color being silver with the contrasting black accents and the nice dark dark black stock, or as close to black as we can get. Looks so nice. I love this look. It's very modern, very contemporary, so it looks a little bit out of place in the game. But if you compare it to someone like John Marston from the main story, he uses a gun that looks pretty similar to this one. So it's not totally out of place, but it just gives you that excellent look that I really love. I once got to use a gun like this to hunt one year, and it had the full stainless steel, and it wasn't wood. It had like a black plastic for the furniture on it, but I loved it. I loved the way it looked. I love the durability of the stainless steel. I just think this one looks excellent. So if you're maybe role-playing as a mountain man or someone who's going to be having their gun in cold, wet environments, I think this one's perfect for it because you get that extra durability from the stainless steel, and it looks amazing. That's the second design. Let's move on to the third. All right, so for our third design, we have what I like to call the White Wolf, and this one is a more subtle design maybe than the other ones, but it also looks a little fancier because we're using some of the extra options. So again, for this one, we're not going to put a scope on it, no wrap on it. We're going to be using the any stock works fine, improved rifling, improved sights, but then for the varnish, we're going to be using the bright maple varnish. We're going to carve the wolf into it. We're going to use the Art Nouveau engraving on the whole gun, and we're going to put the silver inlay into that engraving. Then for the metals, we're going to use blackened steel for the barrel, the frame, and the lever, and then silver plating for the hammer, the trigger, and the sight to make them pop out, give it that nice vivid bright white look to it. And I think that this one is another great combination. We've got the real subdued dark look for the lever, the barrel, and the frame, all given that the black look, but then that silver pops out against it, and the bright maple is the brightest varnish I could find. I wish we had a brighter one. I considered myrtle. I'm not sure which one out of the two is brightest, but whatever's the brightest varnish, I wanted it to pop against the black, and so that's why we use this one. I think this one looks excellent. Like I said, it's the total overall character of the gun is darker because of all that blackened steel, but I think you've got just enough light accents and the engraving to pop out against it to give it a real unique look. Either way, I love this design. I think it's a pretty timeless design. I've used it multiple times. It costs 15 gold bars to make this, so it's not super cheap, but it's also not ridiculously expensive. I think it looks nice, and I think a lot of people would agree. So that's that design. Let's move on to the next one. So here for our fourth design, we have what I like to call the factory finish, or the yellow boy, or whatever you're going for. This one is your historically authentic looking, real subdued, but definitely enough detail in it to give it character look. So for this one, again, improved sights, improved rifling, all that good stuff. We're not going to put a wrap on it. No scope. We're going to use the mahogany varnish for it because that's the closest to what you'd see as a factory finish for a varnish on wood back then, especially on guns like this. And then for the and then no engravings, no carvings, keep it nice and plain looking. And then for the metals, we're going to have it just like this: brown steel for the barrel, the hammer, and the trigger, and brass for the sight, the lever, and the frame. So it gives it that two-toned look, but it's far more subdued than the DTG Classic, the initial one that I usually use. But this one is much more like the historically accurate one. The only change you could make on this to perhaps make it more historically accurate is make the barrel a little bit darker, maybe give it the blackened steel or the blued steel, but I think the brown steel looks much, much better and much more like the historical examples we have to this day. Namely, there's a good chance that that's just because a lot of the bluing on the steel has wore off by this point, but I think that more subtle look of the brown steel contrasting with the darker mahogany stock and the brass frame really looks nice. So that's why I love this design. If I'm ever going to change off the DTG Classic, I'm probably just going to go to this. Even though I love the silver design, this one is such a classic and historical look, and you gotta love it for that. So that is the fourth design for the Lancaster Repeater. Let's move on to the fifth. All right, and so for our fifth and final design, we've got this one. I call this one the Snowbird, and this one is a design that I made once for a kind of a old-timey mountain man sort of build. So that's I wanted an excuse to use the cloth wrap, and I think it turned out excellent. So this one is going to start like the others: improved rifling, improved sights, but we're going to put a scope on it, and we're going to put the regular cloth wrap on it. Then for the design of it, you're going to give it the ebony varnish for the wood. We want to make that cloth wrap white. I mean, lots of different colors work, but I like the white best because I was using it for a character that was spending a lot of time in the mountains, in the snow. So it helps with that. So I like the white wrap on it. No carvings, no engravings. And then for the metal, it's going to be all black and silver. So black and steel for the barrel, the lever, and the sight, and nickel plating for the trigger, the hammer, and the frame. And I think again, we're working with the two-toned look here, and we actually are utilizing a scope, but I think it looks really, really nice. So you get the contrast from the white wrap on the front, the white wrap on the back, and then that nickel plating on the frame in the middle. But then the rest of it's nice and dark and subdued. I mean, the trigger and the hammer are also, nickel plating, but that's just to match the frame. We've got the black lever, the black sight, and the black barrel. I think all of that just looks awesome. It really gives the gun a unique look. It does fit the vibe that I was going for when I first designed this one of a mountain man who basically I only had the one handgun and the one rifle for him and so I wanted him to have something that was definitely more versatile than, say, a Springfield rifle or a sniper or something like that. I wanted him to have a gun that would work as an everyday gun, something that he'd keep in his house to use as home defense, something that would be good while he's riding, something that you use against small game or enemies up close, and also can be used for mid to long range on things like deer. And that's why it's got the scope and the wrap and everything like that. I think it's great, and it's got a real unique vibe to it, and that's why it made this list. So that's all 5 designs. So I hope you found this video useful or entertaining or whatever if you were looking for designs to design your Lancaster in a more creative way than maybe you've had it forever. I think this video is definitely a good resource for that. As you can see, the Lancaster is just such a dang good weapon, especially for PvE. But yeah, so if you like this video, definitely leave a like rating on it. It helps me out a ton in the algorithm and also shows me that you like the content that I'm making, so I'm more likely to make more. If you like this content and you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please subscribe now. It's a great way for you to stay up to date on everything I upload, which is basically videos like this every single day, and it also helps the channel grow, which is very helpful. And lastly, if you have any comments, questions, concerns, suggestions, maybe what you want to see in the next customization video, leave all that down in the comments section below, and I will do my absolute best to at the very least look at all of them, but likely do anything that you may request or engage in the conversation with you. So with all that in mind, thanks a ton for watching, especially if you made it all the way to the end. I definitely appreciate it, but we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching another Dare to Game video. If you like this video, please leave a like and a comment. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel. If you like my content and would like to support this channel, consider becoming a member today for as little as $1.99 a month. It makes a huge difference. But in any case, thanks for watching and have a nice day. I'll see you next time.